how our clients get photoshoot lean and how you can too. Did you eat 10,000 calories? No. Okay, you're fine.
I've got some clients when they get close to that sort of photoshoot condition where when they have a leg day and they're training legs in the gym the next morning, they're always heavier.
Oh, the more data you've got, I like to think of it as like you're providing evidence for future you when you stress out that the process is working.
The clients that we have that struggle to get a result are the ones that message saying, oh, by the way, I decided to go out for a meal last night. What did I do about it? Well, nothing now.
My best clients are my busiest.
The ones that you see getting the best results are not the ones that just go out for meals on a whim, go out for drinks on a whim, and then try and deal with it the day after.
8 o'clock in the morning, I'll have fish and a rice cake.
Okay, welcome back
Welcome back.
to Fish and a Rice Cake. I'm Jake,
I'm Jake.
or Dave, however you want to call him.
Yeah.
And we're here to give you some non-sciencey, ranty advice around fitness to
Nutrition.
help you kind of wade through all the shite that's out there, which
Yeah.
seems to be ever fucking growing at the moment as well.
More and more recently, doesn't it?
It's insane, mate, honestly. And do you know, like I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and because he sent me a video from Shock Horror, the Liver King, he was like, "Why can't you make content like this?" I was like, he was literally eating like a fucking ox tongue or something. I was
Yeah,
just, Listen, I'm never gonna make content like that. But I was just like, it actually is crazy that although there is probably loads of good information out there, there's still so much shit. There's so much shit. Like, it's frightening the amount of stuff that's going on.
But it's because everyone's got something to sell. Like, everyone's got a gimmick
Yeah.
nowadays, haven't they?
And I watched what did I watch? I watched like I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was saying like the problem with social media nowadays, which we spoke about before, is like the more outlandish you can be, the more polarizing you are. So like, unfortunately, the bad content is the stuff that you see the most.
Yeah.
Eddie Abu. You know what I mean? So it's all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that wasn't how we were supposed to start the episode. That was just me ranting before we even got into it.
Yeah, well, I think it's as good a start as any, to be fair, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
And it gives us something else to talk about other than suffering from hay fever, the both of us, for the last week. So
Honestly, it's been so bad. I
feel like I remember us talking about this last year.
We
like
probably
early
did.
last year when
Yeah.
mine were flaring up.
Yeah. I get it. I tend to get it like every year for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And then it goes away.
Yeah.
And like it's like you adjust to it almost. But that's not happened for me this year. Like I'm just struggling with it every single day. I wake up, I'm so bunged up, mate. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So I've got like my little nasal spray.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
does work, to be fair. It proper clears me out. Obviously take my Alevia and stuff. But yeah, it's horrendous this year. I know you're struggling as well, aren't you?
Yeah. It was worse about a month ago. I had about a week where I just could barely sit. Like, I was doing check-in videos and like I was just rubbing my eyes constantly.
Problem is if you start as well.
Yeah.
You can't stop. Like,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
So it was really bad then. It's not as bad in the past couple of weeks, but it's still like waking up proper bunged up.
Yeah.
And like randomly my eyes will start itching a little bit. But it's like, because where we live, it's just like we're just surrounded by trees and grass. There's just like a woodland path. And every time, because we're on the 3rd floor, I have to take Blue outside to go to the toilet. Like, my hay fever will just start to settle down, and then I've got to take him out to the toilet, and then literally within 30 seconds of being stood outside,
Firing
it's
up again.
back up again, and then that's it for like another 3 hours before I take him out again.
Yeah.
And it's a pain in the ass, but it's just like on a night as well. Like, I've constantly got like a sore throat through the night, and then waking up with like a proper sore throat. And
I think everyone's
up with
struggling
it.
though, or like not everyone, because I know not everyone gets it. But I had loads of messages when I put that up saying, "Oh, it's the worst this year," and it just seems to be fucking bad at the moment. But
I had a check-in this week, one of my clients, and they've got it really bad, but they get like black eyes. Like,
yeah, and I've
like,
seen that. Yeah,
I don't know whether it's bruising or whether I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen it before. But they were like, "Oh, don't mind my eye, like it's my hay fever," and I was like, "What?"
mm-hmm.
I was like, "That is
Crazy,
mad."
isn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy. Apparently, the best thing to do is have locally sourced honey.
Yeah. This is
So like you eat
been
honey
told
from
this.
your like local area,
Yeah.
and then your body kind of gets the antibodies. To,
Yeah.
like, fight it off.
My dad said this at the weekend because cause he's got a butcher's and they've always sold like some local stuff. Like there's like a guy locally that makes coffee, so they've got like local coffee, they've got
nice.
local honey and stuff. So I keep meaning to pick a jar up because I'm like, it's definitely not. I have honey every day anyway, and it's not going to hurt.
Fucking love honey.
So I might as well
I
try
love
it. Yeah,
honey.
innit?
My dad got some recently, and it was like, because obviously the stuff you get from like the supermarket, it's it's been modified, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas like if you get proper honey, like the taste is just
Yeah.
insane. Like before it's had all like the processing and the sugar, everything added to it. It's so good.
Yeah, I do need to get some in. Hopefully that because I don't take anything else. Sophie has no sympathy for me because she's like, you don't do anything for it. You don't. I don't have any sprays. I don't take
do you not?
anything. No,
Oh, mate, I couldn't live without my stuff.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like the first thing I do in the morning is take my tablet and do my nasal spray. And that nasal spray for me, because I'm so bunged up, like snore at night and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm mad about it.
Yeah, Sophie does.
Yeah, but that nasal spray, especially at the moment because we've started running, which we'll talk about in one of these episodes. Because I started running, I'm like, I need to clear myself out. And if I was to go out like that bunged up, there's no way I'd be
Can't breathe.
Yeah, so yeah, it's but anyway, we're not just doing an episode on hay fever.
No. We have actually got something to chat about, haven't we?
Yeah, so we're basically going to talk about how our clients get photoshoot lean and how you can too.
Yeah, basically like all the best traits.
Yeah.
The important traits that goes beyond just they have a target, they track their calories, they stick to their targets.
Yeah.
It's not about the actual nutrition training side of things.
Yeah,
Like the
and
personalities and the behaviours.
Exactly that, because the actual science behind it is pretty simple, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's more because, as we know, like as I've just said there, if you wanted to lose some body fat, you just need to eat less calories than you're spending, etc., etc. There's caveats to that, of course, but really it's the traits of the people who do well, and it's the things that we look out for. And you can almost tell, can't you, straight away when you start working with somebody like, right, this person's going to do well because they've got these traits, which I think you have to build up over time to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll let you kick us off, Jake.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the most important ones is they don't let a bad day become a bad week, basically. They, for whatever reason, whatever happens, they've got a stressful day at work, or the kids have been ill and they've had to take them in to see the doctors or the hospital or whatever, and it's thrown them out of the routine, or they're just feeling like shit and they're not well, and they have a bad day, they don't track, or they can't track the food, they eat things they wouldn't normally eat, they don't get to the gym, or they don't get the steps in, and they just, normally we'll get a message like, I've had an absolute shitter of a day, it's all gone tits up and whatnot. And it's all I ever say to that is, look, don't worry about it. Just crack on today as normal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it is something like the kid's not being well or a family member's not well, it's just like, well, that's more important. So just focus on that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And the difference between the clients that get somewhere long term and the ones that don't are those that are just like, all right, cool. I won't dwell on it. I won't freak out. I won't let it affect my mood today, and I won't let it get to the point where I'm just like, oh well, I've fucked up yesterday, so I fucked up the whole week. I might as well do whatever.
Yeah, 100%. It's that on-off mentality, innit? It's just that thing where, and again, if you're kind of new-ish to this stuff, this won't happen overnight. Like I think it is a bit of a mindset shift. That comes with time of like just trial it, trying again. And I think
it comes with the confidence of knowing that it won't actually affect anything.
100%. I think that's it. Yeah. I think that's the big thing, because what you almost need to have one of those days and then get yourself back on track that one time, force yourself to get back on track, even though you don't want to, even though your mind's saying, fuck it, just kind of write the week off and start again on Monday. Really important you get straight back on track. And then actually within a half a day, you'll realize that you've not actually done any damage.
Yeah.
And it's that realization of like, okay, maybe I didn't go to plan, but I can get myself back on track. And as long as I do get myself back on track, the chances are I'm going to still make progress for the week as an overall.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to zoom out and go, well, what does progress look like? So if you do have one of these weeks where just things go to shit, and maybe you have 1 or 2 days where, okay, you can't track your calories, maybe you're at hospital for whatever reason. I've just had a client start and he's been in that hospital for the last few days for a family member, and it's like, okay, well, that's more important. We don't care about tracking in that situation. You've just got to be there for the family member, right? So it is what it is. And then you kind of zoom out and you go, okay, well, what's progress looking like on a week like that? And for me, I would say this to my clients. I'm like, well, for me, if you get through that week and we've kind of maintained, like, we've done pretty damn well. And I think people have to switch their perception of what progress looks like at times, because you can't say your goal is fat loss, for example. You won't lose fat every single week. Some weeks you will maintain. And actually, you just got to look at the circumstances of that week and go, that's a big win, because that might be a week where you normally actually slip backwards and gain a few pounds. So, 100%. I call it bounce back ability, which isn't a real word, but it's what I say to all my clients. I'm like, you just have to have that ability to bounce back.
Yeah.
And we fuck up. Like, there's times when I'm dieting and things, and like, for whatever reason, the family, whatever, something will happen, and I won't be able to stick to things. And again, I used to have the mentality when I was younger of like, oh, fuck it, well, I'll just start again on Monday. Like, that used to be me, so I understand it. I've been there myself. But now I'm like, no, just get myself back on track and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll say as well, like, when they have those days where maybe they eat a bit more food, and I'll kind of say to them, well, look, how do you feel today? And they're like, well, I feel a bit annoyed that I've done that yesterday, but actually, like, I've got a bit more energy today, to be fair, and I'm not as hungry. I'm like, cool, right, go and use it. Like, go to the gym, get your steps in, just use that extra food then. Make use of it. Like, don't worry about it. It's not going to do anything. And, like, I literally had a client this morning message saying the exact thing. He was like, he had a procedure earlier on this week. Nothing like super serious or anything, but something that was potentially just going to knock him out for a day. And he was like, oh yeah, had a shitter of a day, like, was on the couch all day, really bored, did snack a little bit more than I would normally. I've been coaching him now for like, I think 10 weeks, and he's dropped like 10, 11 kilos. He's not missed a day. He's been super consistent. And that's like, he doesn't train, so he doesn't go to the gym, but he does a lot of walking. He's really consistent with his food, tracks every day. And I was like, look, it's 1 day out of 10 weeks. Like, you've already dropped 10 plus kilos. What difference do you think it's going to make? Like, it's not going to do anything. And it's like part of that bigger picture view that you were just mentioning. Like, a lot of the time I'll say, if you take into context that 1 kilo of body fat, like if your scale's gone up a kilo overnight because you've had a bit more food the day before, well, if we take into context that 1 kilo of body fat's around, it's roughly like 7,000 calories in it.
I think it's about 7,700, I think.
7,700, right?
Size.
So even more. 7,700 calories. Well, if you take into account then that you'd have to have eaten 7,700 calories yesterday above your maintenance.
Yeah.
Just to have gained 1 kilo of body fat overnight. So for most people, that's going to look close to 10,000 calories in a day.
Yeah. This
It's
is
kind of
exactly what I say to my clients. Like, when the scales have shot up overnight for whatever reason, I'm like, well, let's break it down. And I will just kind of, for ease of maths, I'll always say, let's say your maintenance is 2,000. It might be more, it might be less. But just for ease of maths, let's use that number, okay? Very generic, but it does the job for this analogy. And then you add the 8,000-ish calories in, which you're going to need to consume to add a kilo of body fat. You are literally talking a 10,000 calorie day. I'll always say, like, did you eat 10,000 calories? No. Okay. You're fine.
Yeah.
Like, move on.
It's literally that. It's like, so do you think it's more likely then that extra weight that you've put on this morning is just from water retention, a bit more glycogen, and food in your digestive system? Yeah, literally that. And when you have that bigger picture, and I think this is what we're saying, like, when you start to get that in your head and you have that understanding, and you're able to sort of take a step back from that initial panic if the scale goes up, and you can, okay, logically, what did I do yesterday? Okay, well, what does this number then mean? And you can be like, all right, so probably nothing to worry about, crack on as normal. That is what over time does help with that, not letting a bad day become a bad week 100%. Sort of mindset.
And it takes time, like you say. That's the main thing. I think and that's when, even, for me in the early days of trying to get myself into shape, when I first got a coach, it was just having that, because you will always think emotionally about it, whereas we'll think more logically about things because that's our job, right? Yeah. That's why we're there. So even now, like, as daft as it sounds, like, if I step on the scales and they've gone up overnight when I'm trying to diet, for example, I'll still get, like, there'll still be that kind of 30 seconds where I'll be like, you fucking bastard.
Yeah.
Like, well, what did I do wrong? And it's like, then you go, and that's just the emotion, right? It's very, very normal. But then after, I'll just go, well, no, logically, maybe I ate a little bit later last night. Like, this week, for example, Thea's been a nightmare to get down to sleep. So I've not been eating my dinner till like 9 o'clock. So generally speaking, my weigh-ins in the morning have been a little bit higher than what they would be. Not changed anything. It's all fine, but you just have to think logically about things.
Yeah. And I was like, with me as well, I say the exact same thing. And I'm like, you have that initial response where you're like, fuck's sake, it's not gone down, it's gone up, why has it gone up? But then you think about it. And I always kind of try and frame it as well, like, I know for me, if I'm dieting, my weight tends to follow a pattern of, it'll stay the same for 4 or 5 days, then it'll go up a little bit, and then it'll have like a massive drop. And then it might go up a really small amount, maintain there, go up a little bit, and then have another massive drop. So I kind of say,
usually that increase is probably a bit of stress, like diet stress, whatever it might be.
So usually I kind of say to people, look, every day that it doesn't drop, if you've still stuck to your targets, and the targets that have helped you drop 2, 3, 4, 5 kilos for the past month, they're not suddenly just not going to work. So if you still stuck to those targets and your weight's gone up, all that says to me is when it does drop, and it will drop, you're just going to have a bigger drop because it will catch up with itself. So it's like every day that it doesn't happen, as annoying as it is, you can kind of frame it as, okay, well, when it does drop, it means I'm going to have a bigger drop. Like,
and generally speaking, the leaner that you get, so for example, we've got a client photo shoot coming up in a month's time, and the leaner you get, I do find that is more common. So like, I know it happened to me when I was doing my shoot prep, and I know it happened to you, as you've just said there. Like, you'll have a couple of weeks where it's really, really steady, and you might plateau a little bit, then for overnight, it will just drop. And it's like, it's nothing you've done the day before. That's just that byproduct of the work you've been putting in for the last few weeks.
It is, because you're always still, especially when you get that late, you're always still dropping that body fat underneath if you're in that same deficit.
Yeah.
What happens though is, because of the stress that's put on your body from the dieting and then the additional training, and your body's not in a good position to handle it, is you do just hold a bit more water. So even though the scale will look the same, you're still dropping a small amount of fat every day. And then, like you said, all of a sudden your body drops that water overnight, and it looks like you've dropped so much weight overnight. It's like, it's not. You've dropped it over the past week. You're just now seeing the result of that.
Exactly. Well, your scales can't even pick up the amount of body fat we want you to lose on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, like, what's going to change more? I think it's, realistically, it's 0.7-ish, that we're looking to lose if we've got the deficit right in terms of body fat per day, which, again, your scales will not pick up. So what's more likely to change, that or the fucking increase in food, increase in water retention, bearing in mind your body is over 60% water?
Yeah.
Like, what's going to move more?
Yeah, even like like I don't know about you, I'm sure you've got the same. I've got some clients, when they get close to that sort of photo shoot condition, where when they have a leg day and they're training legs in the gym, the next morning they're always heavier.
Oh,
just inflammation. It's just muscle damage, inflammation,
100%.
water retention.
And loads of my clients, like, I see this all the time, and a lot of it is down to a bit more flexibility at the weekends anyway. But even the clients who are like perfectly on track at the weekend, they always have a spike on a Monday. Like, I see this every single week, like everyone.
Yeah.
And I do genuinely think, like I say, a lot of it is down to a degree more flexibility, even if it's just a refeed or something. But I think a lot of it is just that Sunday night stress of going back to work on a Monday.
I've had that loads.
I see it all the time. I'm like, I've been perfect all weekend. What is it? I'm like, were you a little bit anxious about going to work on Monday? Were you a bit stressed about it?
Yeah.
Do you have that little Sunday night fear of, like, fuck's sake, another week? Yeah. And, like, I genuinely think that has an impact on things.
Yeah, I've noticed the exact same thing.
So I've noticed that. And this is why, moving on to the next thing, we look at averages, right?
Yeah.
We look at averages, right, and we look at trends rather than daily changes and fluctuations. And again, this is easier for us to say as coaches, and I understand that it's not as easy for you to implement yourself. But it's really important, because, like, if you can see the trend going down, this is why we track data, right? This is why we did a call yesterday with a load of coaches, and we were showing them our sheets and why we do things. And it's like, if we've got data, then you can't really go wrong, because you can see that trend over time. So even if we've had a week or a couple of weeks where things have maybe stuttered a bit or whatever it might be, we can still look back and we can go, well, since you started, you're down 10 kilograms. And if you look at it, actually, you haven't dropped every single week, but we've still got you from A to B, regardless of what's happened in between. So the trend is still going down. Might look a bit like that, but it's going down in the right direction. So you just learn to look at trends over time rather than those daily changes.
Yeah, and you can guarantee, and you'll have this as well, like, I'll get at least 5 with every check-in day, 5 clients where they'll say to me, yeah, weight's not really moved this week, it's a bit annoying. And then you look, and what's happened is they've had a big drop right at the start of the week, sort of to begin the tracking.
Yeah.
And then they've only dropped like 0.1, 0.2 across the week. So they're like, it's just not moving, it's barely moved. But then you look at the average and they've lost like half a kilo on average.
Yeah.
And I just constantly have to point out, no, look at the average, you're half a kilo down. That's good.
100%. I mean, actually, I'm just bring up my coaching log for this week, right? Because I actually kind of had that thought this morning. I was like, and this is how ridiculous it is, and I'm a coach. So on Monday, I was 91.8. Tuesday was 90.6. Wednesday was 89.9. Then the last 2 days have been 89.7. So since the start of the week, I'm actually down 1.1 kilos, right? Which is great. But I was this morning, I was like, fucking hell, that's stuck for a few days. But then this is why I have the data, because I can go, well, actually, like, that's all right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking pleased with that. So again, that's why you've got that data, so you can then go, actually, it is going in the right direction. And it's reassuring. And the more data you've got, I like to think of it as like you're providing evidence for future you when you stress out that the process is working.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't have data, then that is when you do start. That's when you're like, fucking hell, what's going on here? And that's when you think irrationally, you get emotional, and you think, fuck it, I'm not going to bother. You know. So having the data is really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of the traits that we're talking about is just the main trait really for our clients who do get into that kind of shape. And we're not just talking about people who do photo shoots, because we have loads of clients who get into great shape and never do a photo shoot. It is just that ability to just keep chipping away and understand you're not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And I think people, when they come into coaching, sometimes they expect everything's just going to fall into place, and it's not going to happen. Like, there's a reason that you've come into coaching. There's a reason that you're here. And that's because life is not that straightforward. Like, it is going to be difficult. I've just taken on a guy, and he was like so keen, and I love it. Like, I love the fact he was so keen. But since we started, he literally in the first 3 weeks, he had like 3 work trips, which has meant he's been in the UAE. He's been, I can't remember wherever else he was, but he's been all over the freaking place. And I was like, this is life, innit?
Yeah.
So we have to manage it.
Yeah.
Is it going to get any quieter? No. So we might as well just keep chipping away. Like we nail the days we can do. The days we can't, like we do the best we can and we move on.
Yeah.
And over time, that mindset, I promise you, will get you the result. Might take a little bit longer than what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's literally just that, isn't it? And then the only other thing that the only other main one to mention was just the organisation, like planning ahead. Just making sure that you're constantly thinking, right, what could throw me off this week? How am I going to navigate it? And that doesn't mean always being like, oh, there's meant to be a party on Saturday, so I'm not going to that. But it does mean being like, okay, so the party's on Saturday, so realistically, if I want to have a drink whilst I'm there, or if there's some food that I'm going to have, what do I need to do with my nutrition through the day just to adjust for it?
Yeah.
Because the clients that we have that struggle to get a result are the ones that message saying, oh, by the way, I decided to go out for a meal last night. What do we do about it? Well, nothing now, because now we need to try and make up for last night, but you've also got something coming up at the next weekend.
Yeah.
We can't do both. So it's definitely just a case of the ones that you see getting the best results are not the ones that just go out for meals on a whim, go out for drinks on a whim, and then try and deal with it the day after. It is a case of, okay, I've got this. Like we, the Blitz we did in January, Gary and Michelle, who are now doing the one-to-one shoot as well. When we were doing Blitz, and they like were super on it, like more than most people. But she literally was like, just so you know, we've got a meal coming up in 8 weeks. We're going out for a steak.
Yeah.
How do you want us to approach it? And I was like, it's 8 weeks and it's a steak. Look, we can work that in very easily. You don't need to worry. But like the level of sort of organisation was so impressive there.
100%, and that's it. And sometimes I'll say to my clients, like in the check-in, because they'll check in, they'll be like, tell me how the week's gone, etc. I'm like, cool, you didn't mention any socials, so I'm assuming we've got, and then they'll come back to me like, oh shit, I forgot to tell you I've got this. I'm like, I need to know.
That's the important stuff.
That's the important stuff, because if you plan ahead, like generally speaking, you can't go off track.
Yeah.
Because you've got a plan. And like, even like, so I'm off next week, and I had one of my clients check in. She's like, right, just to let you know, I've got this week, and then whilst you're away next week, I've got these 2 things. Now, I've mapped out every single day for her, so she knows exactly what to do in and around those events. She knows what to do on the events, and I guarantee I'll get back and she'll be in a better position because we've planned for it. And it isn't just about planning for socials and things. It's just, even for me, like, especially when you're busy and time is, short, which it is for a lot of people, like spending 5 minutes the night before before you go to bed, whatever it might be, just putting in your nutrition for the day ahead of time, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Because if you then wake up on the day and you're busy and you're tired and you're stressed and you're doing this and you're doing that, and then you're trying to fit your nutrition in around that, promise you it'll go to shit. You'll make bad decisions, or you won't be able to make the decisions you want to make because of the situation you're in. Whereas if you just spent 5 minutes just putting it in to MyFitnessPal, just planning ahead.
Yeah, but even that, do you ever find that, like, I'll get a lot of time with clients sometimes where they're like, oh, the 6 weeks, so if I've got clients that are teachers, for example, and they're like, oh, the 6 weeks holidays are coming up, so I'm buzzing because it means 6 weeks I can smash it. I often find, though, that sometimes when they've got more time, it makes them worse, only because, and we're all guilty of doing it, you kind of be like, oh, well, I've got all the time in the world. I don't need to plan when, because I know I'll get to the gym tomorrow because I've got all day.
Yeah.
And then what always ends up happening is something comes up in the morning, so you're like, all right, I'll go at lunchtime. Then you end up stuck out and about somewhere, so you're right, I'll go this afternoon. And then by the afternoon, you're in that sort of mid-afternoon slump, I can't be asked going now. And you always end up going,
I've just made some content on this. My best clients are my busiest.
Yeah.
Like, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're forced to be organised. Like, they have to know when they're going to the gym, when they're doing the steps, what they're going to be eating. My lunch break's here, so I'm going to be eating this there. And like the ones who are super organised and super busy, like I'm talking, long work days and stuff like that. I've got one client who's doing like 17-hour days, like crazy. But because of that, her gym times are literally scheduled into a diary, stuff like that. Whereas I'm the same. When I've got loads of time, like when it comes to the weekend, that's when I struggle with my diet the most. That's when my training's more ad hoc. Whereas this week, because I'm off next week, I've been working like 12, 13-hour days. And I've been getting up at 5:30, been in the gym at 6 every single day because I know that I haven't got the day to fuck around. So getting my gym session done, which I generally do anyway, but getting it done. I know what I'm eating every single day. I've eaten the same stuff every single day on repeat because, again, it's just made my life really, really easy whilst I've been so busy. And it's been one of my better weeks so far. So, again, it's just testament to the fact that when you are busy, if you use it to your advantage and you get organised with it, I actually think it's just a bit of a fat loss, like super. It's like a proper hack.
Yeah.
And when they're like, all my clients, again, teachers, mums, stuff like that, when the holidays come around, the half terms, that's when everything goes to shit because routine's out the window, structure's out the window.
Yeah.
And that's when diet is more difficult. That's when training's more difficult. It's when steps are more difficult. It's when doing the basics is more difficult. So actually, when you're busy, that's when you should be taking advantage.
100%. I think we'll leave that one there.
Yeah.
And that's good for that one. We have got a physique fuck up, though, haven't we?
Oh, we do? Yeah.
Physique fuck up. So
it's not really, I said we call them physique fuck ups. Would you?
It's basically a random topic we might see,
Yeah.
like a video or a headline or just a general topic that we want to have a bit of a rant about.
Yeah. And this one was, it's just one that I've seen all over the place at the moment. I think it's kind of driven by a few people in particular, but this chopping board culture, it is fucking doing my head in.
I don't understand what the purpose is behind people eating off of chopping boards all the time now. Is it meant to just because it looks nicer, or is
I'm
it?
assuming it was started with aesthetics.
Is it
right?
meant to be like a health thing, eating off a natural?
No, I mean, you know, wouldn't fucking surprise me that the social media is that fucking backwards. It could be that, but it is just like all these people who are generally in like, you know, pretty decent shape, but they stand there with the top off with the chopping board with all the food on it, and it's like, this is what I eat to get into this, and I'm like, do you eat all your meals off that? Like, I had one yesterday. Someone sent me a reel, and it was a super human diet guy who I've done a couple of videos on in the past. He's a fucking idiot. And he had like Greek yogurt on it. I was like, how is that on his chopping board?
But it just run off the sides.
That's what I was saying. He was like holding it like perfectly still. Like,
balance it.
but one of the best, you know, when you have like your bowl of Greek yogurt, right, at the end of it, then the best bit is like scooping around the edges. What you gonna? How do you do that on a chopping board? You have to like licking the chopping board. I don't get it. It drives me crazy, honestly.
So I did the video the other day of a guy who had literally a boiled piece of plain chicken breast, some plain white rice, and some cashew nuts on a chopping board. And he was like, can't wait for this is my favourite meal of the day. It's so tasty, there's so much flavour.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it like, it's plain rice, it's plain chicken, and it's plain nuts on a chopping board. I don't understand the epic. He's lying to begin with because it's not full of flavour. It's boring. We all know it's boring. But I was like, what? I don't understand the chopping board.
It's weird, mate. It's weird, yeah. So the chopping board culture, I think it just needs to go. Don't get me wrong, like, I'll have a cheese board every now and again and stuff. So, like, I understand them. I understand why we have them to also chop our food. But why eat? Why is everyone eating off them?
I genuinely don't understand I don't understand how this has become a thing. Like, I want there to be some sort of
explanation.
Yeah, like, or it's meant to be better for you because you're eating off of like natural materials, which you're not because they're manufactured and like mass produced. So there's going to be all sorts going into them. But I just don't understand it.
No.
It just makes no logical sense. And when I did this reel the other day, someone sent me a message off it being like, "Oh yeah, I did actually try this for a while, and then I had my Sunday dinner on one, and I put the gravy on, and it ran all over the floor." I was like, well, "Yeah, obviously."
Well,
it doesn't even sound like a good idea.
I ate out at a pub once, and it was like a roast in a platter.
Yeah.
Right? So they bring it all out on a big platter, and again they put the gravy. So they give you the roast in a platter, and they put the gravy on it. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
It's just going to go everywhere.
Yeah, but you couldn't pick up the platter or anything. You couldn't move stuff over. It was just like we were just trying to maneuver it so we didn't spill gravy everywhere. Like, I just don't understand it. Just eat from a plate.
Yeah. Makes no sense. Daft. Stick to a plate.
So that's that rant for today. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, like,
subscribe.
Yeah,
X.
That one I can never remember.
X.
Yeah.
Tweet. Fucking
comment.
Bebo.
I don't know.
Just do all that stuff.
Yeah, just do all that. Do all that. Tell her, mate.
Yeah. Nice one, guys.
Catch you in the next
See you in a
one.
bit.